Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea from Lightspeed here. I'm the team lead for the professional services golf team. I'll be walking you through our point of sale webinar today, which is just a really good overview of our retail point of sale. The duration's about 60 minutes, give or take some questions. If there is anything that you want to go over in particular, feel free to put in the chat. Otherwise, I might direct you to your implementation consultant so that they can answer any of the questions that you have. Today's main goal is just to review the configuration and essential inventory setup to make sure that your pro shop can be ready for the season, to make sure you can get transactional and make sure that you can start getting golfers in the door. And then to accomplish that, we're going to go over processing sales from the tee sheet directly in Lightspeed Retail, as well as some refunds and exchanges, which are always super important to practice. We'll go over some basic inventory management, so creating some categories, creating items, and doing purchase orders. And then at the end, we'll cover some key reports. In Lightspeed Retail, there's a number of really good reports at your disposal, but I'll just highlight a couple that we find really useful for our customers. And then we'll go over some next steps, and then we'll have a live Q&A if you have any questions. Again, feel free to put it in the chat because I will get to them at the very end. So to start off, if you're in your Lightspeed Golf account, there is a really quick shortcut to get to Lightspeed Retail, which does make life a little bit easier for you. So if you're in your tee sheet point of sale, right above your name on the top left of your screen and right below the golf course name, you can go ahead and just click on Lightspeed Retail. If you've been logged in, it'll just open the tab for you. If not, it'll prompt you to log in. So it's a good way to kind of have a good quick way in. You'll also notice that there's a chronogolf button right here. It does the same thing where it brings you right back. So it's a good way to just switch between the two. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do when you get to the pro shop in the morning is you're going to want to open up your register in the pro shop. Now, a quick way to know that whether or not it's open is by coming to the sales screen. You'll be able to see if it says open on the top right of this square. Otherwise, it will be dark blue because someone's like actively in it. So to open it up, it's fairly quick. You just click on it. And then from here, you can actually input your different opening count like tenders. If you wanted to put how many $20 bills, $10 bills. Otherwise, if you do know the exact amount that you're going to be putting into the drawer, you can just put the total amount in there. Now, as soon as you click submit count, it'll bring you over here where it'll prompt you to either print this little ticket just so that you can either put it in the drawer or just have it for your records. Otherwise, the system is going to store which employee opened it and how much they put in at the beginning of the day. So it's not something that's required to be printed, but if you wanted to, you do have the option. So it's a good way to kind of go over through there. Now, before we get into the actual sales screen, you'll notice on the left-hand side, the configuration is very similar to your golf, of course. Now, the left-hand panel will depend on your employee role. Now, in Lightspeed Retail, there's a lot more permissions that you can control than on the golf side. So it's a good idea to always review the permissions for your employees because you'll be able to pick and choose exactly which modules they have access to. So it's a really good way to just kind of make sure that everyone has the right access within the system. So I always encourage people to go ahead and take a look at the employee roles, which you can find in your settings. And here, through employee setup, you can set up the logins, but at the very bottom, you have your employee roles, which does allow you to control exactly what access your employees have. So if we come back into and click on our sales, you can see here I can go ahead and click new sale, which will bring me right to my sales screen. So from here, you can see I have some buttons at the very top that I've customized for my sales screen. These are called custom menu buttons. So these buttons will allow you to kind of have shortcuts into your inventory, just make things a little bit quicker for staff, especially when you're transitioning to a new system. It's always a good idea to just make sure that you make things as quick and easy as possible for the staff. For example, if I click on range bucket, I have 4 more options where I can go ahead and click small and it'll just add a small bucket. So instead of, trying to find a barcode for the small bucket or whatever it is, you can easily just make these shortcuts for the staff, which at the very end of the webinar, I'll cover how to create a couple so that you can go ahead and practice and get them in there. If you do want to make sure that your sales screen does have this, just let your implementation consultant know in your next call that you want some help setting them up and they'll be able to walk you through it. Some other ways that you can add some items into the sales screen is that from this item search bar, you can type in an item itself, or if you do have a barcode scanner, of course, you can just scan the barcode and it will pick up the item itself. Now, if I just put in a keyword, it'll just show me all the different items that fit that description. So if I wanted to just put in the bag, I can do that and kind of go through here. So it allows you to see all those things. Now, if I click on my golf balls button up at the top here, you'll notice that it's slightly different than my range buckets because this is just pulling all my items from the golf ball category. So I can go ahead and add them in here quickly. So we'll go over how to kind of create those and how to manage them through when you're creating the button. So it's a good way to kind of see them. Now, once you're ready to take payment, you go ahead and click payment on the right-hand side. And I just want to note that depending on your club, your payment options are going to be different. If you have integrated payments, right above where it says cash, you're going to have a button that says credit/debit. And if you click on that, that's how you can start the payment and send it to the terminal. Otherwise, your payment screen is going to kind of look like mine where I don't have integrated payments. And if you click max next to any of the payment methods, it's just going to put the entire balance owing into that one payment method. You can always make adjustments to the amount and then do the max. If you want to split it amongst two, you could always do that too. You have the option to kind of split it between payment options. And then once I'm finished, my balance is at 0 and I have all my payments, I can go ahead and hit finish sale and it'll bring me to here. Now for you, it's probably going to prompt you to print your receipt. I have disabled it because I don't have a printer connected to this. So it will look like this when you go to print, where you have this, you can format your margins, you can just make sure everything looks nice. I can tell right away that mine would probably need to be adjusted, but it's a good way that if you wanted to print a second copy, if they did end up wanting a gift receipt, you could kind of go through there and make sure that you're going through it. Now you can always pull this receipt back up, and I'm going to show you different ways on how you can actually find a receipt once you've processed a sale and how you can go through it. The first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to open up a booking. I'm going to hit take payment, and I'm just going to group everyone together because for this purpose, everyone will be on one receipt. As soon as I hit take payment, Lightspeed Retail actually opens up within your T-sheet. So it's not, you can see that my tab is still open on the right-hand side at the top of my screen, but this is just going to bring everything into the retail point of sale for you where you can process your sale. Now from here, you can actually add an item to the receipt, right? Because I can just click here. I can say they're going to add a divot repair, add some teas. Perfect. Going to add those items. I can go ahead and click payment. I'll say they're giving me cash for this, and I'll hit finish sale. So it's not because you're on the T-sheet that you can't also add some inventory items to your sale. It's just a matter of starting it from the T-sheet, because then once you're finished, you'll see that everyone gets marked as arrived and as paid. So it's a good way to just make sure that everybody has processed and gotten together without having to kind of segment your sales and stuff. You can still add your inventory items when you're checking out a golfer. So it's a good way to kind of go through that. Now, one thing when you are doing a sale within Lightspeed Retail is that you do have the ability to add a customer to the sale. Now, whenever you're starting a sale from the T-sheet and sending a golfer over, so if you have, like, let's say a member's name or a public golfer's name, they'll automatically get attached to the sale for you. But if you don't have them, if you're starting the sale directly on the retail side, if you add the customer to the sale, there is some benefits to it. So right away, you can see right next to my name, it says that I'm a member, which at this particular golf club, I actually have an automatic discount that is assigned to me once I have my member customer type assigned to me. So if I were to add any kind of golf balls or anything, you can see I don't have a discount, but if I go ahead and add the Chronogolf one, you can see that on clothing, I get 10% off. So right away, it kind of adds that level of customer service for your members where you can actually offer this to them. Now it's separate from your like subscriptions and player types. So it's something that you're kind of managing separately from that. So you can also group things together in an easier fashion. If you currently have a member discount of any kind, maybe a staff discount, some people have owner discounts, anything where you're kind of giving them a set discount on particular items, whether it's a markup of 10%, whatever it is, just let your implementation consultant know, because they'll actually go through the process of setting that up with you just to make sure that all the items that you need included are on there. But it's just a good way that you can kind of give that to your customers. Now you can see down here, I do have points. That's just because this particular account and this golf course does have our loyalty program. So that's what you're seeing, is I do have some loyalty points assigned to me. Now for this, let's say you wanted to offer the golf balls at the 10% discount as well for the customer. You can click on the item and then choose the discount you want to apply to it. It'll only apply to this particular item, and you can pick and choose if employees can even apply a discount. So there's two different ways you can control whether an employee can apply a discount, either the line item, which is just what I just did, or the ability to click on apply discount and apply it to the entire transaction. So if I move it to 15% and click apply discount, it will change the discount applied to 15%. It's not going to add it on top of the existing one on the items. It's just going to impact all your items. So it's a good thing to kind of consider of whether or not you want to give that ability to your employees to be able to assign discounts. A lot of people will allow maybe the line item, just the individual items, but not the entire discount for the item. You can also, through your inventory setup, pick and choose which items are even eligible for a discount. So if you don't want any items to, a particular item to not have a discount at all, you could also choose that. When we go over setting up the inventory, I'll be able to show you exactly what I mean. So it's a good way to go through there. Now, if I click on payment again, you'll see I can do Amex. Some of these payment types, as you can see, I use this demo quite a bit through onboarding. So I have a lot of different examples for some of the customers I've done, but you can kind of see what it'll look like for you. So I'll just click finish sale and then we're done. So now let's say I've come back in and I've actually want to return my hoodie that I just purchased. Maybe I don't have the receipt, maybe I do. If you do have the receipt, you can, and the date of the transaction, you can scan the receipt if you have a barcode scanner to pull it back up. Otherwise, with the ID on the receipt, you'll actually be able to just look it up and pull up the transaction if the customer wasn't attached. But if you have attached the customer to the sale, if I click on my name, this is going to give you my profile. It's my retail profile. It's separate from the golf one. I'd have, if you have the restaurant point of sale, you'd have a restaurant profile as well. You can see that my email and member number have come across into the retail side. But if I click on sales, this is every single sale that I've ever been attached to on the point of sale. So it's a really quick and easy way for you to be able to pull up an old receipt and be able to just process a refund or an exchange for a customer without, you know, if they don't have the receipt, if they don't have anything. And this way you can actually see any discounts that were applied, anything like that. You can actually pull up their actual receipt. So if I click on the 2480 ID, this is going to give me just a breakdown of the sale itself. You know, it's going to, on the right-hand side, it's going to give me my totals, you know, the taxes, my profits, just going to give you an overview. And then in the middle, it's going to give you the date and time of the transaction, as well as the employee and register that it was on, just to give you a breakdown. You can also see how the customer paid, the individual line items that were associated to it. And then right up at the top, you can see it says refund. So if I click on refund, it's going to open up a new tab. You can see right now I have refund right next to where it says sale. Now I can pick and choose which items I'm refunding. So if I'm just returning the Chronogolf hoodie, I can add it to my sale. If I click payment, you'll notice right away that it's this darkish orange color, letting you know that it's money going back to the customer. So right away, you know it's different from your payment screen, from your sales screen. But let's say the customer decided to actually do an exchange. They didn't want this particular hoodie, they wanted a different one. So you could go back to the sale, and then now that we're on our sale tab, so before we were on our refund tab where we can see we have our negative subtotal, that if I click on sale, I can actually search a different item. And let's say we'll add the Chronogolf Polo, $34.90. You can see now when I click on payment, it's turned green again because the customer now owes us the difference. So it's a good way it's a really quick and easy way for you to see kind of what type of transaction you're doing. You'll always be able to see the history when you click on payment of, you know, adding the item being returned in the one that's being purchased. So from here, you can also click on cash. You'll notice that for this particular customer, I also now have the option of an account. Now this is if you offer house accounts for your members. It'll only appear as an option if you have the ability to charge it to their house account. So in this particular instance, I'm actually going to charge it to their account, the difference. So I can go ahead and hit finish sale, and then the sale's finished. Now, refunds and exchanges are something that, of course, you can tell that I have a lot of practice with it. I've done it quite a few, quite a few times in my day, but it's something that I've practiced. So it's something that we always encourage anybody when they're going through onboarding. It's something to practice. If you've seen our onboarding checklist, it's an item that we have there because you should do some test transactions, test transactions where you're selling to a customer, test transactions where you're refunding, and then on top of that, doing an exchange. This will just allow you to be more comfortable so that in those situations when you do have a customer actually standing in front of you at the counter, that you'll actually be able to just quickly process the refund and be confident doing it. So it's something I always preach that you should be practicing. It's something that you're not going to break in the system. As the onboarding team, we will go in and help you void any transactions ahead of going live. So don't worry about anything like that. Like, practice in the system. It's something that you'll just benefit from in the long run. That's for sure. So now we're going to kind of switch gears and we're going to go into our inventory management. So the inventory management, of course, is super important. And what it allows you to do is really kind of understand how you currently have your inventory organized and if you're maximizing its potential and understanding the sales that are coming through the pro shop. Now, in our inventory tab on the left-hand side, this is where you're going to be able to really kind of make the bulk adjustments to your inventory and kind of understand everything. Now, if you're doing an inventory import, when we send you that template, that's where you can kind of really focus your attention and make sure that you're setting everything up to make sure that it's there and organized properly. If you're doing things manually, which totally understand, especially when you're gearing up for the season, maybe you haven't received a lot of your inventory, the first thing you're going to want to focus on is your categories. So if I click on my categories, you can see I have quite a few different ones created already. The golf ones, you'll notice, are pretty standard in your account. We generally create them at the beginning. If we don't create them, it's because we kind of know that you have a little bit more in-depth reporting from an accounting perspective. But when you're looking at this, anything without an arrow is considered a parent category. So it's kind of where it's going to all group together. Anything with an arrow is a subcategory. Now, you'll notice that I have my apparel, I have my men's shirts and shoes. You don't necessarily have to go further than that to, let's say, your Callaway polos and, short sleeve. You don't necessarily have to go that deep, but it will allow you to understand your inventory and the sales when you're doing a category report. And on top of that, when you're creating a new item or anything, or you're linking it, you will be able to also link a brand to it. So you don't always have to go that far into it. You can see with my golf balls, I do have Titleist, but I'm not going to have Pro V1 versus Pro V1X. I'm going to have it organized just at a macro level, because there are other ways to put that information in. As you can see, I have quite a few. Some of mine do repeat. I do do this webinar quite a bit. So for this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and we'll do accessories, because that's always one of my favorites. As soon as you hit enter, you have the option of also adding the subcategory right from here. So let's say I wanted to do belts, I can do hats. It doesn't take very long to actually go through and add these items in and being able to do this, but it's a really good way to kind of understand your inventory. And then that way, once all your categories are set up, you're comfortable with where you have everything organized, that's when you can shift and start adding items. So if I go back to our categories, you can see I have some duplicates. Don't worry about me. I don't recommend it. But when you're looking at your accessories, you can see all of it. You can click into it and quickly see anything. What's nice is that if you notice that, actually, you know what, I prefer this in apparel, you can click on the parent and you can actually just switch it. You can go ahead and click, okay, I'm going to do men's socks. Click here, save changes. And now when I'm looking at my categories, the socks have been moved from under accessories and now in under apparel. If you have items already linked to that category, it'll actually already shift everything. So it's a good way to just kind of make quick adjustments and move things around and being able to kind of see all those different things. And like I was saying before, when I was going over the sales screen, the golf ball item button that we clicked and it showed me all the items under that category. This is where it's pulling from. It's saying that everything under this category will be linked to that button so that you kind of have a shortcut into that group. So if ever you want to kind of create some custom menu buttons, it's a good thing to consider how your categories are currently organized. So now that we have all our categories created, we're good to go. So we'll click back into our inventory. And now we're going to go ahead and click new item. Once you're on this screen over here, the description is going to be the description that shows up on the receipt for the customer. So whenever you're looking at anything, you will be able to, it's how you can search it. It's a good way to kind of go through it. So in this particular one, we'll create some Lightspeed golf socks. The type just kind of adds some different items. So a single item is just an item that's a standalone. It's just going to hold its own inventory. We're going to go over a box item next. And then the non-inventory items, when I show the inventory levels for my entire inventory list, you're going to notice that all the golf items are actually at a non-inventory. So they're items that, you don't actually keep stock of. Maybe your pull carts, your range buckets, things like that you don't actually keep stock of. It's just something you sell. That would be considered a non-inventory item. So from here, because I'm adding it in manually, I can already put in my stock. The system ID will automatically be generated for all your items. So if you don't have a SKU or if you don't have a barcode scanner, the system will already give you one. Otherwise, you can also input each of these 4 different ones. Now, a custom SKU isn't going to have a format that you're going to have to stick to, which is nice. But if you do have a barcode scanner, you're going to want to input the SKU that your barcode scanner is currently configured for. You can always switch it, but it's just something to consider. So you do have the option of using those 4. Then now I can click on where it says none for the category, and I'm going to go ahead and click apparel, and I'm going to click men's and socks. So now I have it all categorized. I can go ahead and put the brand in. And if you want, you can also put a tag. So if you wanted to group some like items together, you'll be able to segment your list by tag if you wanted to as well. So it's a good way to kind of think about it. Now for our pricing, if I start putting in pricing, you'll notice that all my pricing levels do change automatically. You can individually change it. So for example, if you want to put $8.99 for employees, you can also, I happen to have an e-com store connected to this account. So if you have an online price, you can also do that. This is where you can decide whether or not that this item is can have a discount applied to it. And then from here, you're going to want to choose the tax class. So for right now, it's a merchandise. So I know my tax class is proper for merchandise. And from here, I can also put in the cost for my item, and I can also link it to a vendor. Doing this doesn't take very much time when you're doing it for your items, but it's just a really good way to just make sure that you're kind of inputting as much information as you have about the item into the system. It will just allow you to pull better reports year over year and understand kind of how golfers are shopping and, in the pro shop and what they're purchasing. It's a good way to just kind of understand, the total sales from your pro shop. Now, I can also input an automatic reordering point. So when I'm going to go over purchase orders next, we're going to see how you can also make sure that you don't ever fall below, let's say 5. If it's a really popular item, you want to make sure they're always in stock. That way, when you're doing a purchase order, you can always make sure that everything, any items at the reorder point or desired inventory level, that you can make sure you're adding them to the order. As soon as I hit save, I have a new section where I can kind of manage everything. This is going to be kind of your default information for your entire item, where you're able to see the inventory history. So you're able to see the cost, and let's say you are adding 5 more in manually, but they upped the cost to $5.5. You can click add inventory, and then now you're just able to kind of see on average what the cost is for the item. By default, the system will have your items at average cost. We do also have first in, first out. So meaning if I sell the first 20 Lightspeed golf socks, the cost and margins will be calculated off the $4.95 margin. And then my next 5 will be off the $5.55. So it's always kind of taking into account the cost of the item at the time you received it. If you have Lightspeed accounting, it's something to consider. You'll want to keep it at average because it doesn't support first in, first out. The sales, so you're able to see just any sales that this item was attached to in the system. If you have any special orders, work orders, any customers that have purchased the items, any purchase orders that it's been linked to. So it just really does give you a really good history of the entire item and being able to kind of see everything that's going on with it. So now that we have it added, it's ready to be sold if we needed it to. And now we're just going to go click back into our inventory and we're going to add a new item. So the next item we're going to add is going to be, perfect. So when we're adding a golf ball, generally in a pro shop, you're selling it at 2 or 3 different formats, right? You'll have a dozen, you'll have a sleeve, and you'll have maybe a single golf ball if you have those. Some pro shops do. For the purpose of this one, we're going to consider just a dozen and a sleeve. So where I'm going to create my dozen as a box item, I'm going to put the quantity of dozens that I currently have. I can also put in my SKU. I'm going to go ahead and put my golf balls. I don't have a category for it, so I'll leave it like that. I'm going to put the Chrono Golf one, 45, cost 3, and I'm going to link it to my vendor again. I'm going to put 5, and I want to make sure my desired inventory level is always 10, so I'll click Save Changes. Now you'll see on the left-hand side under Box, I have a new option. So when I click on Box, what this does is that it's going to allow you to link this item to another inventory item. So because I have a single item like a sleeve that I will also sell this golf ball as, I can either search my inventory level if the item currently exists. So if you already have your single sleeve, you could already search for it. Otherwise, you can also just create the item directly from this screen. And then because there's 4 sleeves in a dozen, we'll go ahead and click Create Single. And it will automatically divide your retail price for the dozen into however many make up the box. So it's a good way to kind of see the breakdown. You can also click on the item and make adjustments. Let's say you actually want to sell this at 15. You can go ahead and make those adjustments. It's not that, it's just the system's going to default for you that it's just that item divided by however many it makes up. But you'll notice I don't actually have any inventory in here. So now if I go to our sales screen, I'll go ahead and click New Sale. I'll go ahead and hit, I'm going to attach the sleeve to the item. You can see it's below cost, so I'm selling it at a very good margin right now. So if I go ahead and click payment, I'll just go ahead and hit cash. Now if I go back to our inventory, you'll notice that the dozen is now at 9 quantity and the sleeve is at 3. The system automatically took from our dozen, took one of those dozens, opened it up, sold one, and kept the rest of the 3 sleeves because I now no longer have 10 full dozens to be able to sell to a customer. It's also a good way that when you're kind of, it's kind of always pulling from one another so that you can always make sure that your stock actually reflects your actual inventory. So if ever you're doing inventory counts, you can actually count your dozens versus your sleeves so that you can see exactly how many golf balls you have in each format. So it's a really good way to kind of see how it all kind of works together. If you do have an inventory import that we're doing for you, we can also import some of your box items. We would just link, the only next step would just be linking them in the system to their single, like the corresponding items as a single. If you look at your inventory list, so if I'll go back here and if I click on item search, this is going to give you your entire inventory. And you'll notice that all these 1-person carts, you'll notice they look exactly the same and the same names as on the golf side. They all have this dash for their quantity and a $0 price. Now this is entirely by design, don't worry. They're all non-inventory items, of course, because carts and green fees you're not holding stock of. But the price is always going to be dictated by the price in golf. So if you're sending, if you consider the golf at your golf course, you could have a twilight rate or super twilight. Maybe you have peak season rates. Your pricing is always kind of changing for your golf items. But on a typical retail store, your prices aren't really fluctuating on an hourly basis or on a time basis. So whatever price you have set in Lightspeed Golf, so whether that's your price sheets, your memberships, your packages, whatever it is, whatever price you have set for it on that particular day, on that particular tee time, when you send it to the point of sale, that's the price it's going to take. Now, if you So as you can see here, I have a $10 price associated for my junior 15 to 18 carts. The thing is that if let's say it's $15 on that day on the price sheet, when I send it to the point of sale, it's going to be $15. So don't waste too much time putting in prices. Everything is coming over from the golf side. Don't worry about it, just so you know. It's also really important not to delete these items or archive them in any way, because the system will need it so that we can send it to the point of sale. So don't worry about these ones too much, and you can see the categories that they're linked to right away, and they're coming over from the golf side. So you can always go through there, but it's just to give you an important note on those golf items that you see in your inventory. It's completely normal. It's how it always looks. Don't worry about it. That's how we want it. So now that we have our items, we have everything, but now it's time to receive some orders. Now, if you do purchase orders, the system does make things very easy for you. And it's one of those things that the more information you put in, again, at the beginning, is just going to make your life a lot easier throughout the season. So if I click on purchase order, you can see I already have one kind of started. You can also filter to a particular date if you wanted to expand on it. But to start a brand new one, we'll go ahead and click purchase order. You can search your vendor, which I'm going to do one from the Chronogolf one. Otherwise, you can add one directly from here. You don't have to go to your vendor list to add one. You can put in the reference, what date you're ordering. I expect it by Friday. You can also put some shipping notes, any general notes. And as with everything else, when you hit save changes, you're going to get some new options. So right away, we can see that I have my vendor information is already populated on the right-hand side. If you do have your sales rep information and you input it on a purchase order, it will save, but otherwise you can also just put it in your vendor information through your inventory. So you could put it in here, you could put any kind of information that you have. And then you can see down here, I have those reorder items. So if I come into I can go to specific categories, but I can also just go to a particular brand. So if I just want to see my Chronogolf items, I can click auto add all, and it will only add the items that are below their reorder point. So if I want to make sure that, I have 5, my reorder point is going to warn me at 5 for those golf balls, I can make sure that it's as soon as I hit auto add all, it'll add all those items for me. So it's a really good way to kind of like put that information in. Otherwise, you can go into search items. You can go down here. You can select everything, or you can pick and choose what you want. Oops. We can click add selected. And then down here, you can see how many quantity you have on hand. You can also see if anything's been ordered. And then in this column right here, you're able to put in how many of each you want. So if you want to just add in 2, you can just keep putting it in, and it's just going to keep saving that. And the total is going to keep changing. If you click save changes, you'll see that the new cost of everything and how many are being ordered are being updated. So now let's say we finished, we put everything in, I'm ready to place my purchase order. One of the good things to do is to always click on special orders, and just to make sure that there's no item linked to this vendor that is on special order for a particular customer. So it's a good way to just double check to make sure that you don't have anything else to add in. Then from your order screen, you can either click export to print it so you can fax it to your vendor. Otherwise, if you click on email, you can actually email the purchase order directly from the point of sale. You can leave a note, you can put in, any information. Their email already populates, my email's already here. So it allows you to just kind of quickly have those informations in. And then if I click on order, so now I'm back in my order screen, because let's say I've now received my items. I'm going to go ahead and click checked in, click save. And now you can see the bottom of my list has actually been grayed out. So this is just letting you know that you haven't yet received everything. If you manually go and count to make sure that everything's there from the packing slip and compare it to your purchase order, you can just click receive all items. Otherwise, you can just use your computer to check in the items to receive them, to put in how many you had. So let's say I've received everything because my vendor was good today. As soon as I click that, you can see that my column has updated to reflect everything. And then the last step is to just click add receipt to inventory. As soon as you do that, it's going to update all your inventory levels for your items. So by click of a button, confirm, everything's going to turn to green at the very bottom to show you that it's completed and everything's been updated. What's nice is that from when you are doing this kind of import, before you add it into your inventory, you are able to just make sure that the cost is right. If you want to make any changes to the retail prices, like you can do all these things from here. So it's a good way to kind of manage everything. If you could also put in the shipping costs, any discounts or any like credits that you got particular to this order, just so that it reflects the total invoice number for you, so that your invoices match when you're looking in the system versus what you're looking at in there. And now that we finished, we can go ahead and click that the status is finished, and I can go ahead and hit save changes. So now when I go to my purchase orders, you can see that my Adidas one I've ordered, it's very late because I have not checked this one in yet. So if ever, I can always go back in here, click down here, you can see I've placed it here. I'm just going to check this in, receive all, then I'll just add it to the inventory. Perfect. And now the order is finished. You can see when it was received, you can see how many items you ordered, how many you actually received, and the total of the invoice. What's nice about this is that you do end up with just a really good overview of all your purchase orders and being able to see exactly, you know, which vendors are on time, which vendors, how long does it take, which ones have incomplete orders. It just allows you to kind of see the whole history of your relationship kind of with your vendors. So it's a good way to go through it. If you do purchase orders at the golf course, let your implementation consultant know, because they'll be able to walk you through this a little bit more in depth for the ones you currently have. So now we're going to change paces and just kind of go over the customer profile a little bit more. So we already saw that you can see your sales history, but I did want to just touch on that if you do have house accounts, this is where you're going to be dictating their credit limit. So right now I have a credit limit of 500. I happen to have a deposit on this one, but if we were to go to another customer, oh, she does have one as well. Everyone has limits at mine. There we go. So when you're on an account that doesn't have a credit limit, this is exactly what it looks like. So as soon as I click on create account, this is where I can dictate their credit limit to be able to charge. As soon as they hit that limit, it won't be a payment option available during the sales process for this customer. So unless they make a payment towards their balance owing, it will max out. And it's a good way to just kind of see it. Under this account profile will also show you any payments or sales that were assigned to their house account. So it's a good way to just kind of see the entire history for the customer. For example, if we look down here, you can see I have about 54 different transactions that were specific to my house account, where I can see my payments, I can see any, you know, sales that happened. If I click on any of the sales history, I can see the line items. So you can see I paid for a big group of golfers to come through. It allows you to just kind of see the history for the customer. It's really, really important that whenever you're adding a customer, you're doing it on the Lightspeed Golf side. Any golfer that you input on that database will push over into the retail side, but it won't happen in reverse. So if I have a database that I'm putting in on the retail side, it's not going to populate on the golf side. So it's really, really important that you're only kind of centralizing your customers in the golf so that it's just one consolidated database for you, and you're not making sure you're not missing anybody in going through there. So it's very, very important. All right, perfect. So I just wanted to mention that. So now we've gone through some sales, we've done some different transactions. Now when we're in our reporting, you can see that there's quite a few different reports at your disposal. What's nice is that each one has a little description next to it, letting you know exactly what it's about, to just kind of giving you a glimpse of what it is. There's about 4 or 5 different transactions that we do, reports that we do emphasize. The totals report is a good one because it's just going to show you a list of your transaction IDs and just give you your totals. So it's a good way to just kind of see your day. If you want to just see, for example, your month, you can just filter to that date range and be able to just see your tax breakdown for your tax classes and being able to kind of see the total with tax and with any discounts. So it's a good kind of way to see it. You can also filter to, if you just want to see members, particular employees, like it allows you to kind of segment those things. Another really good one is your all transactions. So this is where you can kind of see your completed ones, voids. You can filter to the type of transaction it is. And again, you can just go to this one. This report's more useful on a day-to-day basis. It's not going to give you your totals for like your sales history, for example, like your sales for the month, but it will give you just kind of an overview of any customers. You can see Tiger comes in quite a bit at this pro shop. So it just allows you to kind of see a history. It's really easy, especially when we are talking about not having a receipt for a customer. It's a lot easier to just pull up the receipt if you have the date or general date around when they came in. And then if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we're going to go ahead and click on our category report. So from here, you're able to see kind of a breakdown of each of your subcategories. So I can see like my ladies apparel shirts versus my men's apparel to be able to see the difference between my sales. And then anytime you see this eye icon in the point of sale, if you click on it, it's actually just going to give you a history of those items. So you can see the sales that we did today are going to be listed there. And it allows you to kind of have a quick glimpse. It still gives you your totals. And what's nice is that in this report, if I click before, which will show me all my different sales, it'll show me everything. You can see right now I have 199 sales that happened with an item that isn't in a category. If I click on the eye icon, now I can see exactly which items it is that aren't categorized. I'll go to one that I have the most of. There we go. So let's say I click on our food and beverage event. You can see I don't have a category for it. So if I click on here, food and beverage, good. I'll click on save. And now if I go to my category report, there we go. If I scroll down, you're able to see that my no category will have updated. It did not, so I'm just going to show you one more time. There we go. So in our no category, if we take our polo, we'll put it in apparel, we'll put it in men's shirts. Now, if I go back and scroll down, you can see that that number went down to 198. So it automatically takes in effect. It will take whatever item you just adjusted and moved into a category and put it into its right category. So for your reporting purposes, it does kind of update automatically for you. So it's a good way that if ever you want to make adjustments, let's say at the end of the year, you want to reorganize your inventory, this will allow you to kind of go back through it and make adjustments and in real time see the impact it will have on your reporting. There are other things to consider when you're going over this, but if ever you're kind of doing, you can kind of see if, especially your no category, we see that a little bit at the beginning. If you add items and didn't think to put it in a category, it's a good idea to just kind of update it so that it reports exactly where you need it to be. And then at the very bottom, you can also see just the totals again. So you can see all time your sales and everything with your sales. And then another really good one is your payments received. So this is where it's going to give you a breakdown per tender method in the point of sale, so that you can go through, let's say, since February 1st, what my totals were. You can see, the total of tax, but then you can also see any of your cash, Visas, or MasterCard breakdown. So it's just a good report to just kind of see your totals. But otherwise, if you want to see kind of your category and that payment received report in one place, you can go ahead and click on the end of day one on the right hand side. Click end of day, we'll pick a date. I don't think I had any sales then. I didn't, hold on. Let's do it for today. There we go. So right away, you can kind of see the breakdown like we saw in that payments received report, where we have the breakdown per payment type. And this will also give you the first invoice of the day and the last invoice of the day. So it allows you, if you want to know transaction IDs. If I click this arrow right next to where it says Eastwood, this is where it's going to give me my breakdown per category. So then you can either print this report, but like everything with the system, you do have access to this wherever you are. It's just logging in through the browser and having access to it. It's the benefit of it being a cloud-based system, is that you don't necessarily have to print things. The system will kind of give you that information from any given day wherever you are. So it's a good way to kind of see those things. And then you can see kind of your retail, the cost and the profit relative to all of it. Now, this end of day report is only going to be on a daily basis. So if you wanted a longer range, it would be kind of a combination of two or different reports. If there's anything that you're used to kind of consulting in your current system, just let your implementation consultant know, because they'll be able to show you exactly where to get the information As you can see in our reports, there's really no shortage of information that you can get out of the system. It's just a matter of knowing where to go get it. So it's always just a matter of making sure that you're comfortable and you know what you're looking for. Because as you can see here, we can pull discount reports, that tag report that I was talking about, brands. Like these are all things that you are able to kind of see on a date on and really whenever you feel like it. But now let's say you're finished with the day, you're ready to close up the pro shop, everything's finished. We'll go ahead and hit on sale again. You'll see I'm not in the register just yet. I'm kind of in the before stage that I can go ahead and click close drawer. Now there's two different ways that you can do a cash close. You can either do a blind close where you just give employees the ability to do a drop, which they can click on here, put in the amounts, say that they're, withdrawing cash and put in a note saying, closing count from March 9th. You can do that. Otherwise, if you click on close register, it will show you what you started with. So it does give them a little bit more information. So depending on the employer currently in your pro shop, there are the two different ways you can close the drawer. So in the start plus ads, this is any cash that was inputted, whether at the beginning or throughout the day, any cash payments that happened while it was opened, any withdrawals that maybe there was a drop. So for example, that drop, if you were doing a blind close, and then it will give you the total remaining. So it'll add all three of these columns together to give you how much money you should have in the cash drawer. So you can input all that information, but again, you can make things a little bit easier for yourself and just put in, for closing count, I would recommend being a little bit more detailed, but instead of watching me input each of the different methods, I'm going to make things easy. 0. And then you'll also be able to see a breakdown of each of your other payment methods. So if ever you were doing like a batch comparison, especially if you're non-integrated payments, you're able to kind of see the exact breakdown. If you're looking at your batch report from your terminal, you can input the exact amount so that you make sure that everything balances. As soon as I hit submit counts, it's going to let me have an overview of each of the things, any adjustments I made, what it was short and over. So if you wanted to make any adjustments, or, I was like, oh, you know what, I forgot to put in that nickel, I'm going to go ahead and put the 1, submit counts, and now there's no short or over. So it kind of allows you to kind of verify the information before you actually confirm that this is right and this is how you're leaving the cash drawer that day. So it's just a good way to just verify. As soon as you hit save counts, again, like when we open the drawer, it will prompt you to, if you want to print it. This one will have a little bit more detail. It'll show you kind of like the counts and short or over. So if, maybe a supervisor or, a leader in the pro shop, that they're allowed to close the drawer, you can have them print this. Otherwise, in our reports, you can go ahead and click on closing counts, and this will show you every single cash close that happened. So you can see here that there was a couple that were closed today. I'll just go all the way to the back and click on here. If I click this eye icon, like everything, it's going to give me more details. What it's going to do, it's going to take all the sales, all my payments, any ads or payouts, and it's going to segment it for me. So if you close your cash drawer many times in a day, which you definitely can, it'll just kind of keep segmenting. So if you have like a shift changeover and anything like that, it'll show you what time it was opened at, by which employee, which time it was closed at, and by which employee. And then I'll show you each of the different information. So you can see the payments, the ad payouts, you can see all these things. And if I click on payments, it's pretty much your payments received report, where you can see each of the breakdown of your different payment methods, so you can just double check that it's all right. You can see any ad payouts, which again, if I left any notes, they would be there. And then I can also see the sales. So it's a really good way that, it's also why we encourage golf courses to close the drawer at least once a day. If you're close it at least when you're leaving for the day, because it just makes things so much easier that if you are trying to find an issue, if there was a mistake, human error happens. This just allows you to kind of find that needle in a haystack a lot easier, because now instead of me looking through, let's say 4 or 5 days of sales, trying to figure out what happened, I can just go day by day and see exactly which sales, see the totals, be able to make those comparisons so that I can see all the different things. So it just really allows you to see the differences. And that way in the morning, you can come in, open the day, and then you're starting fresh. So you can always see those things. The closing count you don't have to close your drawer every day, but again, it's just something that we encourage. So now we've gone over our reports, we've done everything. The last little thing I'm going to go over is those custom menu buttons. So if we go ahead and go to our settings, which this is really where, you know, kind of like on the Lightspeed Golf side, where you're going to kind of like dictate a lot of the different things. It's where you can set up those automatic discounts. It's where, you know, your employee roles. But at the very bottom, we're going to go ahead and click on custom menu. You can see I have quite a list here. All of it serves a purpose. But I want to create a button on my sale tab, because as we remember doing our refunds and exchanges, there's different tabs for each kind of workflow that we have. And this is all those different colored buttons that I have. You can see that they're linked to different things. They're all different types and category submenus, all these different things. And then at the very bottom, you actually have a preview of what the button will do once you create it. So if I click on golf balls, I can see what it looks like and I can compare it to what type it is. Now, if I click on counter accessories, you can see that it's slightly different. So it allows you to kind of see the difference. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and create that accessories one. I'm going to choose category submenu. I can pick a color, do light blue. It will automatically go to the very back, but on the right-hand column over here, you can change the order of the buttons. So if you want to organize them a little bit better once you've created them, you can always reorganize them and put them in a different order. But now you can see right under here, I'll zoom in a little bit, that it says category submenu, but then I'm not linked to any category. So if I click on none, kind of like when we're adding a category to an item, we'll click OK. And because I don't want to go further, I want both belts and hats to be an option, I'm just going to go ahead and click OK right away. So now when I click on accessories, I can toggle between the two. And then if I had any items in those categories, they would all be listed there and I can further segment. So if you want to have a like generic button for accessories and then be able to kind of filter down, you can do that. If you want your buttons to look a little bit more like this, a little bit organized, cleaner, a little bit nicer, just let us know. It's something that we like doing one-on-one with people, just so that, you know, if ever there's an item that you want to add to it or you want to practice, that, you know, you're a little bit more comfortable with it, so that you can see exactly what it is. You can also have the food and beverage, food, you know, clicking on the different things. So when you're in here, it does allow you to kind of practice things. Now, what I always recommend is start from the bottom, like start from where you want to be really, really specific and work your way backwards. So like if you want an item for, you know, your counter items, then create some buttons for like your ball markers, your tees, your divots, and then work backwards so that you're kind of going more vague and generic as you go. So that's everything I wanted to cover in today's webinar. If you do have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. I'll leave the chat open for a couple minutes. Otherwise, after this, your implementation consultant will send you a recap email, including your login credentials. So if you don't have your retail credentials, don't worry, that is coming in this next email to you so that you can start getting in and start practicing on the system. I do highly recommend practicing. It will make things a lot easier when you're going through the setup and making sure that everything's done. So it's just it's a good idea to just get in there and make sure that you're comfortable with everything. And then if there's anything at all, this webinar was also recorded, so if you'd like a recording of it, just let us know. We'll be able to send you one. Otherwise, we'll also there is one posted in the help center. So if there's anything at all, just feel free to put it in the chat. But otherwise, thanks so much for taking the time today. Hope you learned something new about the retail point of sale. And if there's any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help, and we're excited for the new golf season.